Good morning, Broncos fans. Hope you're all having a great day this morning. I am actually a little bit tired staying up watching Ted Lasso for the first time. It's a great show, and I actually watched too many episodes. So it's going to take me a minute to get my brain functioning here. Hopefully, hopefully, it won't take too long. But we're going to talk about something very interesting that I found, historically speaking, about the Broncos opening week wins and losses. So that's great. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to Mile High Huddle YouTube. So you get the alerts. You know that these shows are coming. And of course, the Legends of Mile High talks about history, talks about current events. And it's fun for me. And I hope you guys are having a great time. So let's before we jump into it, let's just check the chat. We got Jeremy Sean. He's coming in. Thank you, Jeremy. You're I think you're here every morning, so I appreciate you getting up early and checking it out. If it is early for you, where you are. Morning, Thomas. I'm not overreacting to an emotional week one loss. Correcting mistakes and making adjustments will be the key for this young coaching staff. Yeah, it's interesting because when I was watching that game, I'm a passionate Broncos fan, obviously. And typically when they lose, I'm like I get really PO'd, right? I'm pissed. Uh, but I looked at that game and I saw so many good things that happened. It was just huge mistakes. And what that kind of told me was it's a great team that we have to watch this year. And they just dropped the ball big time. I mean, figuratively and and literally, they gave that game away. And so I wasn't as upset about it, but I've got some information that I found that doesn't warm my heart much, and I hope the Broncos can really turn this thing around. I know it's only one game, but historically speaking, that one first loss for the Broncos is not a good thing. It's a bad omen. So I'm going to jump into that here in a little bit, but. Uh, I just want to remind everybody or tell everybody that San Francisco 49ers are coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend, prime time. Mile High Huddle is going to be there, I believe, with a tailgating booth. I'm going to be there. I cannot wait to watch the game live. I've never been to a primetime game, so it's going to be fun. So come if you're there, Denver, come out, check us out, say hi. We'll be there most of the day, I believe, but I'll definitely be there. So be wandering around. Just stop me and say hi if you want. And don't forget, um, before I forget, I just want to mention from last week's show about this hat. It was a raffle kind of thing, giveaway, and I'll say it again just in case the winner isn't on this morning. But Albert Knoppers is the winner of that hat, so we'll have to figure out making arrangements to get that hat out to you. So I'll say it again a little bit later, but if you're on here, congratulations, you're the winner of that great hat. Someone came in. I just missed the comment. Good morning. No panicking for me. There are correctable mistakes and adjustments can be made. One game doesn't make a season. Bounce back on Sunday. Go Broncos. Well, yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. The Broncos have to bounce back this Sunday because I've looked back at from 1970, the merger, till today, every season, week one and week two. If they've lost two games in a row, they've never made it to the playoffs, not once in that entire period. So if they don't win against Houston at home, the season is man, it's going to look pretty bleak to me from my perspective. Now, I know that you can't compare history to everything today, but that's how you forecast things, is looking at history, looking at trends and seeing what happens so you can make an educated guess or judgment or whatever for the future. And two losses is not good for the Broncos. Definitely not good. And so they're going to have to win. But the thing is they're not playing in preseason now, so that's different. That really caused a lot of mistakes. I think a lot of timing issues, mental lapses. So maybe by not playing in the preseason, this past stuff that I'm going to talk about is not really relevant because of that. They're going to take a couple weeks to get going, but losing the opener is not good. So let's just talk about the good things. So when the Broncos have won the opener, they've done that most of the time. So 35 times in there since 1970, 54% of the time they made it to the playoffs. Now that's, that doesn't indicate a whole lot, but it's a heck of a lot better than when they lost the opener. So they typically win. Since 1970, they've won way more season openers than they've lost. They've lost 16. They've tied once. They only lost 16 times in the season opener. Only 3 times since 1970, when they lost the opener, they went to the playoffs. That's 19% of the time. That is not good. Not good. So the Broncos are going to have to correct those issues, and they're going to have to win this coming weekend. I mean, it's definitely a winnable game against the Texans. They looked pretty decent against the Colts, but they're at home. They don't have that loud crowd to deal with opening week, where they're not really in time, not in sync. So it's a definitely winnable game, and I have them winning that game. So they have to come through. All right, DeAndre Weatherspoon, thank you for jumping in here from Facebook. Go Broncos. They are working out the kinks. They have to work out the kinks. I mean, if they don't, they're in trouble. So I was a big proponent of not playing anybody in preseason, but that really came back. I think that came back to bite them in Seattle. It was a bummer. So yeah, they have to right the ship and do it quickly. Dave Glassman, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Loving the Broncos. And then we got Albert Knoppers. All right, Albert. Good morning, Thomas. Now, since you are here, and maybe you didn't hear it, you're the winner of this hat. So we're going to have to make arrangements for me to send it out to you. I appreciate your support, and I'm glad that I can give something back. And anyway, so that'll be it. So we'll figure out how to get that hat out to you. If you're on Twitter, you can DM me, but if not, unfortunately, I'm not on Facebook, so I'll need to figure out how to get that to you. But thank you very much. So looking back at the past, past schedule, typically when the Broncos lose that first game of the year, they haven't been a great team. So, most of the time when they lose that, they're close to 500, under 500, or maybe they've had a only 6 winning seasons when they've lost that first game of the week. So 1974 they had a first winning season, or 1974 they lost the first game, tied, and ended up with a winning season, the second one in their franchise history. But that doesn't happen very often for them. And like I said, only 3 times they've actually went to the playoffs. But I will point out one time that they didn't make the playoffs. They had a really good team. 1985, they went 11-5 that year after losing that first game. And that was a good record. But this is how important every win is. They missed the playoffs by 1 game. The LA Raiders at the time they were ahead of them by 1 game. They won the division, and they lost the tiebreaker to the Patriots and the Jets, I believe. Tied record, they lost the tiebreaker. That's how important every win is. So 11-5 record with John Elway. Dan Reeves was coaching back then, and they missed the playoffs. So that was a huge bummer, because that was a pretty solid team that year. And I think the Broncos have a very solid team this year. So if they were to miss the playoffs, that would be a huge bummer. And the reason why every win's important, I mean, look at the AFC West. I mean, Kansas City's already 2-0. This is going to be a dogfight, and they're going to have to go on a winning streak here soon in order to right the ship. And that's what's happened every time they've gone to the playoffs after losing the first week. So it doesn't happen very often. So like I said, 3 times, but in 2000 was the first time they went to playoffs after losing the week 1. And they went on, they only lost 2 more times the whole rest of the season. Jake Plummer was playing out of his mind that year, his probably best season. So the quarterback's important in this situation, but I think they rattled off like 6 wins in a row shortly after they made that, they first lost. So no, I'm sorry. I'm going to say that was 2005. Sorry about that. Not 2000. 2005, they rattled off 6 wins. Jake Plummer playing out of his mind. 2000 was the first year. That was Brian Greasy as quarterback. Now, Brian Greasy was not a great quarterback for the Broncos. But that season, if you look at his statistics that season on a per game basis, he was playing out of his mind as well. And they were able to get into the playoffs, squeaked out 11-5 season, but they also had a win streak in there. I think it was 5 games. So each time that the Broncos have been able to turn around, they've had to have a pretty long winning streak. And that's what they're going to have to do. In fact, they really need to do that starting next week. They need to go on a 4 or 5 game run to really turn this around. I'm going to jump back into the chat. We've got Michael Ronquillo coming in. Good morning, Thomas Hall and Legends of Mile High, Broncos country. Let's ride. Good morning, Michael. Thank you for coming in this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. You're on here often. I really appreciate it. We are talking about the first loss of the season and how it's kind of an ominous thing for the Broncos in their history. So that doesn't mean that everything always goes the same way in the past, but just keep that in mind. Dom, appreciate you coming in. Good morning, Thomas, Scott, and Broncos country. One more week till me and my wife go to Denver to watch our Broncos in week 3. Denver Broncos for life. That's great. I'm going to be there too. It's going to be my first, like I said, my first primetime game. This is going to be fun. That's going to be a huge game for the Broncos. 49ers, they're a beatable team. They're a good team, but they're a beatable team. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback at that time, but if it's Trey Lance, he's definitely inexperienced. It's definitely a winnable game at home. So the Broncos have a chance to get two wins coming up, I believe. And then I'll talk about the third time. Oh, sorry. The Bronco, another comment coming in, the Bronco bro. Thank you for coming in. I think this is the first time I've seen your comment on here. So I appreciate you coming in, supporting the show. Broncos need to get this first win against the Texans. Need that momentum heading to week 3 against a tough 49ers team. Absolutely. It's not just the momentum. I mean, if they lose this, like I was saying, if they lose this game starting out 0-2, they've never made the playoffs. And, that's not a good sign. They have to have this game. I mean, it is a must win. And I expect the Broncos to come out this week without the mistakes they had in the Seattle game. I mean, that should have been a blowout. That means they're a good team. They fumbled the ball twice in the goal line. They were in the red zone 3 times, came away with 3 points within the 3-yard line or closer. I mean, that's just boneheaded mistakes, fumbles. I mean, I know people are down on Melvin Gordon because of his fumbles last year, a couple times, really important fumbles. I think that Melvin Gordon's fumble wasn't, it was 4th down. He was trying to stretch for that and he fumbled it. It wasn't a huge deal. He was trying to get that touchdown. I don't fault him too much for that because it was a play that he was trying to make at the 4th down. You've got to do it. I was a little concerned about Javonte Williams' fumble down there on the goal line, but my biggest concern was the play calling in that situation. I mean, I'm sure people have hashed this out like crazy, but man, you got to give the running backs a head of steam going into that line. Why Hackett lined them up in shotgun and that did a running play is beyond me. If you're going to line up in shotgun like that, I mean, do a rollout, do something, throw the ball. Give the running backs a chance. I mean, they got to get running downhill. It was just, I don't know. It was a rookie mistake, a lot of rookie mistakes by the head coach. And I think that came from preseason, but I still like him as a coach. I think he's smart. I think he's innovative. He had some great play calls the rest of the time. So I think he'll turn it around. So we'll see it this week though, for sure. And Jeremy Sean, you have a good point here. We knew the new coaches, new QB, and new scheme, things would take a little while to get things rolling. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It was a winnable game though. That's the problem. And if you're losing the close ones, you're not getting into the playoffs. That's the biggest problem. So you've got to right the ship now. I mean, if this Texans game is close for any reason, you've got to figure out a way to squeak that one out. And that's the problem. You've got to win on the road. So this year, the Broncos are going to have to take 2 games probably that we weren't expecting at this point. I mean, you've already got the Kansas City Chiefs 2-0, and they look like a good team. I mean, they are a good team. And the problem is the Broncos injuries, and I'll address that in just a second. Turtle 4614. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate the chat. We need TK. We need to start winning and winning big, or we are in the same spot. Look at the Chiefs putting up 30 plus every game. We have to beat that. Yeah, I mean, I think the Broncos defense, I know that they didn't look great in the first half. And now that Justin Simmons is injured, that is going to play a big part. He is an incredible player, all pro caliber player. This was going to be a big year for him. He's going to miss 4 games. So that's going to hurt. But their defense is solid. I mean, they completely shut down the Seahawks in the second half. And in the fourth quarter, the Seahawks had negative yards. So I think, yes, the Broncos are going to have to score points against the Chiefs for sure. You can't have the mistakes like you had in Seattle or you'll lose. But I think they have enough offense to do it. And obviously they have a pretty solid defense. And like I said, that defensive line, by the time the season's up, is going to be one of the better units in the league. DJ Jones played awesome in Seattle. Lawrence Rivera, thank you for coming in, man. Only thing Javonte learned from Gordon was how to fumble. Well, yeah, I mean, we give him. It's funny, we remember the fumbles, right? Last year, Javonte had a big fumble. We remember that, but I think Gordon only lost 2 fumbles last year, and I think Javonte Williams lost 3. I mean, yeah, ball security is a huge important, and they came at the worst possible time. That's the problem. They came, these fumbles are coming at the worst possible time. But they're not fumblers. I mean, you look back at Eric Dickerson in his 2,000-yard season, I think he had 14 fumbles. I mean, this is, when you think about it, fumble ball security has really improved over the years. And, their ball security isn't bad. 2 fumbles lost last year is not bad. We remember them because they happened at the worst possible time and they cost them the game. And the same thing happened here. So I'm not super worried about the fumbles. If it happens again this week, then I'm going to start worrying for sure. But I don't know. I fall into that trap too, where I overreact to something like, oh my gosh, he's a bad fumbler, but neither one of them really are. Albert Knoppers, thank you. Coming in, the fumble from Javonte was the entire offense's fault for not getting ready in time. Yeah, I mean, there was huge mistakes all around. I mean, they didn't give him a chance from the get-go. And that's just being prepared. You have timeouts for a reason. And I know you want to save those timeouts, but if you're on the goal line and you have one shot to punch it in, sometimes it's worth taking a timeout in that situation, make sure people are set. But again, I go back to the play call. I mean, the whole thing was doomed from the beginning. He barely had the ball before he's getting hit. And, it's a bummer. I still, Andrew Beck was playing so good. He was blocking so good in the early part of that game. Why not put him in at fullback? That's what you have him for. Have him in there as a fullback, pound it into the line, and you get those few inches. Or, I know they didn't want to do a quarterback sneak, and I kind of have my reservations about, taking your franchise quarterback and having him go head first into the defense. But give your running backs a chance. But if you're going to line up in shotgun, I think you got to throw the ball. So, and especially after they did it the goal line before, and Gordon didn't get in. I think you should learn from that. So, yeah, if the fumbles keep occurring, I would start to get worried. But I'm not super worried about it. Michael Kerr coming in. Thank you for this. I got to get everything cleaned up. Messy game and noisy. Noise didn't help the communications. Everything with time will be fine. Absolutely. Everything with time will be fine. But you got to get wins in that time while you're learning. Because if they don't, they're not going to reach their ultimate goal. Their goal this year, Broncos have come out and stated their goal has been to win the Super Bowl. That's what they're shooting for. And if you're messing around trying to learn a few times before you get it right, and you're 0-2 and you're 1-2, that doesn't bode well. Like I said, the Broncos have never gone to the playoffs since 1970. Actually, in their entire existence, because they didn't go to the playoffs until 1977. Have never gone to the playoffs starting 0-2. So This has got to turn around and turn around quick. And you can have growing pains. That's fine. I mean, they're going to have growing pains. You got a new coach, new quarterback, new scheme. You're going to have growing pains, but you got to get those close wins in the meantime. So I just want to say thanks to Scott for helping out in the background. He's got to take off, so I'm going to be running this for a few minutes after. So appreciate Scott. So so make sure that you're throwing a like down and throwing some stuff in the comments. Anything you want to ask me, it doesn't even have to be about the topic. If you got something else, throw it out there. But again, I'm gonna write up an article today about comparing the position groups like I did for Seattle. I'm going to be writing up for the Houston Texans, sending that off. Hopefully that'll be information that you guys can use while you're getting prepared for the game. I think that I think the Broncos have the better roster than the Texans. They have the better quarterback. But the other thing that I want to point out about losing those close games early in the season, you've got Quinn Miners is out for a few weeks. You got Justin Simmons is out for at least 4 weeks. So not winning those games early and getting injuries, that's a tough one to swallow. So I am hoping that the Broncos can take this game for sure. So I'm just going to just let you know that I've got a good Mile High legend that's coming up at the end of this show. It's about Austin Goose Gonsolin, and throwback to an original Bronco, but it's a pretty good one. So stick around for I'll be telling that story here in a little bit. So Michael Kerr, I'm going to be running the show on my own. So if it's a little choppy, I apologize. Michael Kerr coming back in. Glasgow made Pookie fumble. Yeah, I mean that was a all around kind of crappy thing that happened with that offense. But I thought Glasgow wasn't going to make the team this year. He came around. He played really good in the preseason. I kind of go back and forth on him. He's their best option, I think, coming in. But Miner's injury really, really hurt them. I love Miners. I think if he can stay healthy, I think by the end of this year or even into his year next year, he's going to be the best offensive lineman on that line. That's how much I think of Quinn Miners, because he came from a small school. He learned quickly. He continued to grow. He's already starting. And man, he is a beast. He does not give up. He runs down the field. He pushes the pile. You never see him standing around doing nothing. So I really enjoy watching him, and it's a shame that he's injured. Jeremy Bales, thanks for coming in from Facebook. Do you think we will get Virgil involved in Hamler? We need downfield threats. I don't think Virgil's going to be involved that much early on. I think, if you look at the past, you look at Green Bay's offense the last couple of years, you look at Broncos offense, that fifth and sixth wide receivers, they just don't get that many targets. I think if you combine the fifth and sixth wide receivers targets for last year for the Broncos, I think it's less than 20 targets. So it's, it's getting them involved. I don't know. Hamler, on the other hand, though, needs to get involved. And I think it was a product of the Seahawks defense. That Hamler wasn't really involved, and you might see a little bit of difference, this weekend, because the defense can hopefully be a little different, and they maybe be able to exploit some deeper balls. But Hamler had that great catch just out of bounds. That was a big catch. That's another thing. Like it's such a game of inches, and Vince Lombardi said that a long time ago, and it is. Toe touch on the line for Tomlinson negated a winning touchdown. So they've got to get those right. And that's the thing about this Broncos team. They are a good team. They just messed it up big time in Seattle. So they just get those couple little inches, going their way. They're going to win games. So Albert Knoppers coming back in. Did I hear it right? You're going to the meet and greet. Michelle and I are going as well. Yes. So on next Sunday, not this Sunday coming up, but the 49ers game, I'm going to go to the meet and greet. I'll be there. I was planning on going to the game anyway because, it was a primetime game. I thought it was going to be awesome. So in Mile High Huddle, just happened to have a meet and greet there. I will be there. So if you're going to come, Albert, I will bring the hat, and then we don't have to worry about mailing it to you. So unless you want it beforehand, I will, I can mail it to you if you want to wear it to the game or whatnot, but just let me know. I'll email you. So thank you for that. A couple more comments here. Miners will be though, and Cush and Fleming played okay. Yeah, they did. I mean, I thought the offensive line played okay. I think when Miners went out, it really hurt them. But I mean, they were opening pretty good holes for the running backs. Just the score dictated the not running as much. So I think you're going to get a heavy dose this weekend of Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. I mean, the Texans just let the Colts run all over them last week. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of running game this year or this weekend against the Texans. I think you're going to see an efficient game for Russell Wilson, but I don't think he's going to have to. I think he's going to have to carry the team at the end. The Bronco bro coming back in. Chubb had a decent game. Hopefully he and Gregor will stay healthy enough through the season. Yeah, I mean, I thought Chubb played really good. The first half, they were kind of struggling to get pressure on Geno Smith, but man, Chubb came through at the end, and that to me was a huge sign. And thank you for that comment. I appreciate you coming in for that. That was a huge sign for Chubb. I mean, 2 sacks at the end, and they were impactful plays. And I know that fumble he caused just lucky bounce right into the offensive lineman's hand. That's not going to happen every week. But those 2 sacks, they came when they were needed most. And the defense did their part to win that game in the second half, and the offense, fumbled it away. But they had their struggles in the first half, but they didn't get blown out. I mean, it was not like they were up down behind by 30 points. I mean, they struggled, and even though they struggled, they came back and really put it on. So it's amazing. And I think Gregory played good. Impactful plays, and I think they're going to be a good tandem once Gregory gets back into football shape and really playing. So as long as they can stay healthy, that's always been the key for them. Michaela Parker coming in. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. This is what keeps these shows rolling. Keeps us being able to keep the lights on, so to speak. So I appreciate that super chat. Thank you so much. I thought it was a very frustrating loss. Heartbroken. Yeah, it was, because like we've been talking about, it was heartbreaking and frustrating because they lost themselves. I mean, you could tell that the Broncos were a much better overall team. That score should have been they should have scored at least 27 points in that game. And it should have been a 10-point victory or more. They keep shooting themselves in the foot, so to speak. And that's what makes it so frustrating. I don't like those losses. So again, thank you for coming in. I appreciate that, Michaela. I don't like it when the team is not disciplined or make those big mental mistakes. And I mean, oftentimes that's a sign of coaching. I think this time it's a sign of not having really played live games in the preseason. And so do you want to have your team healthy at the end of the year? And what's interesting is Carl Mecklenburg put something out there talking about it. I don't know if people saw it, but he really kind of explained what that philosophy is. And towards the end of the year, people are going to be more fresh. So I think not having played a bunch in the preseason and then you got that 17-game season, they're going to be more fresh at the end of the season as long as they stay healthy, which is interesting the way he put that. And I mean, Carl Mecklenburg knows, so much about football, and he's someone that you should listen to. So that's good. But the problem is you can't keep messing it up along the way. You have to right the ship soon, because at the end of the season, if you're 500 and you're out of the playoffs, it doesn't matter. So they've got to figure out a way to learn and still win at the same time. Michaela coming back in. Thank you. We hit it with another super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We committed so many penalties too. Yeah, man. That's another thing that bothers me, because they were mental penalties, like really dumb penalties. Taunting. You know that you're going to get called for taunting. Don't do it. Even if it's just a small thing. And that taunting penalty was kind of weak, in my opinion, but you just don't do it, because it's a huge penalty. And then the false starts. I mean, The crowd is loud there. I get it, but I mean, they're just anytime there's like false starts or anytime there's like dumb penalties like taunting, not penalties where you're actually playing the game and you make a mistake and you pass interference or you hit somebody in the helmet because you're not meaning to do it. It's just the way the game play goes. I'm fine with that, but those mental mistake penalties, they got to clean those up, and that's a sign, in my opinion, of coaching and not being ready for that crowd noise. So they have to clean that up, and that all those things cost them. And you still think about it, as many mistakes as they made, the Broncos lost by 1 point on the road, so and left a lot of points on the board. So I think. I'm hoping that the history that I've been talking about of the Broncos losing that first game doesn't come into play here. I hope this is the year that they, their fourth time losing week 1, that they make the playoffs. And I think they can, because each of those times, and I feel I didn't get to the last one, which was the Tebow time era. Each of those times the quarterback was kind of really, I don't want to give Tebow too much credit because, he didn't play very good that year. It was an awful season, but at the last 2 minutes, he worked his magic. The defense is what kept them in it. But having that quarterback playing really well throughout the year, Brian Greasy, and then you got, Jake Plummer, and then to a certain extent, Tebow at the last few minutes, the defense kept them in, like I said. Having that quarterback come through for you, for the team was huge in those 3 seasons that they made the playoffs. And I think, you've got Russell Wilson. He played really pretty well. I mean, I think his timing was off with his, receivers, but I think that will change and things will start to turn around on that as well. So, all right, I'm going to get Scott Rolfe. Thank you for coming in. Got a bell cow back. The next Derrick Henry in my eyes. Derrick Henry, only guy who had more broken tackles and forced missed tackles before he got hurt, was the only other player with more than Javonte Williams, our next star. If we get Melvin Gordon out of the way, Williams was there with Derrick Henry on those stats sharing backfield as backup. Henry, their main carrier. Yeah, I mean, I love Williams, and it's a shame that he fumbled and he's getting some heat this week. But Williams has a great career ahead of him if he can stay healthy. And but the thing of it is having another back there is helping him. I mean, Williams has never had to carry the load, like the full load through college and then again in the pros. So helping him stay fresh is good, so having Melvin Gordon, and I know people are down on Melvin Gordon because of the fumbles, right? But he's a good running back. He's not a great running back, but he's a good running back. He's a good pass protector. You need someone like that to kind of help carry the load. And keep Javonte fresh. I don't think Javonte needs to be effective. I don't think he needs 350 carries. If he can get close to 300, I think that's good. He'll have a good season. And, as he starts to grow maybe he'll start getting more and more carries. But having Javonte there or having Melvin Gordon there for Javonte is a good thing. And we touched on that when Dr. Smith was on the show talking about the West Coast offense and how Melvin Gordon has helped him. So I appreciate that. But, I think being young and just, kind of getting into the swing of things, I think it's helping Williams. Is just no more fumbles. That's all I care about. Jeremy Sean, Tebow was not a complete QB, but the man was clutch because he believed, and that was what this team needs, just like Ted Lasso. Believe. Yeah, I know. I mean, I can't believe I haven't watched Ted Lasso yet. I mean, that was, I started watching that. It's such a good show, but absolutely, that whole year was kind of miraculous. I mean, things bounced their way. It was great, but yeah, I mean, from a QB standpoint, Tebow had one of the worst QB seasons of all time that year. But those last 2 minutes of the man, it was electric. It was fun to watch, but yeah, the QB is highly important, and I think Russell Wilson's going to show everybody why he's a franchise quarterback this year. All right, so Turtle 4614 coming back in again. I don't think this is productive going back and forth between backs. Let one who has a hot hand cook. he hits tired, then gets tired, and then bring back in. Yeah, I do prescribe to that a little bit, especially the hot hand. But unfortunately, last week they were behind and they needed to start throwing. Took the running backs out of the game for the most part, but Javonte had incredible receiving week, and so did Gordon. Really, they both caught the ball well, but yeah, I mean, I go back and forth. It's like the inside linebacker for me, and the running backs from the days of old, so to speak. This nostalgia of having that bell cow back who grinds out your yards for you. The NFL's it's just they've got a new philosophy where they're using a two-back system, and and I'll also say if you look back at these 2,000-yard club, when those backs they're super productive. They carry the load. They have a bunch of carries. Oftentimes the next season they get hurt. So, and I don't know if it's just a coincidence or what, but that wear and tear on their body is rough. And I look back at when the New York Giants had Joe Morris, and Bill Parcells came out and just flat out said he wishes he had someone else to help carry that load because he feels like he ran Joe Morris into the ground, giving him all them carries. It was a short career for him, and he was good. He was a really good running back. But, he was a smaller back and it really wore him down. And, I'm not a big Bill Parcells fan, but the guy knows more about football than 99% of the people in the world. So if him to come out and say that he wished he'd had someone to help carry the load for Joe Morris, you got to take notice of that. And, having two backs isn't a bad thing. But you're right. When one gets going, just keep feeding him the ball. And the other thing too is, I mean, it's just fun to watch Javonte Williams play, man. The guy runs angry and he's hard to tackle. And I mean, that's the kind of thing fans love. So having him out on the field is a good thing for fans and for the team. So so thank you for that. All right. I know we've got a few more comments, but I'm going to have to jump into the Mile High Legend here pretty soon. But I'm going to get Peter Middleton's here. Should we be worried about the defensive injuries with the offense? Will the offense bail them out, or will someone like Strnad or Singleton step up? Yeah, we should be worried about the injuries. I mean, Justin Simmons is already out. He's one of their best players on the field. He's one of the best safeties, if not the best in the NFL. Losing a player like him that's going to hurt. And, I think Josie Jewell being out had an effect on that team as well. He's their leader. He's the one that was calling the plays, and for him to get hurt kind of at the last minute, that week to miss the game, I think that hurt a lot as well. The injuries are if they pile up, that's going to be that's going to make a massive difference in their wins and loss column. So they need to stay healthy, get those players back. I hope this week that Justin Simmons being out doesn't hurt him. Caden Stearns had an incredible year last year for a rookie. I hope he can step up and kind of fill that void, but it's going to be tough to be as good as Simmons is. As far as the linebackers go, I hope Strnad isn't on the field on defense. Last year showed that he didn't have that instinctive ability to read and react that a linebacker should. He's got some good athleticism, but if you can't put yourself in the right place, and maybe he's grown in that. But from my experience, people that don't have that innate ability to kind of read and react quickly and make the right decision don't learn it, 4 or 5 years later in the pros. So yeah, I wasn't really happy with Singleton's play. For his experience as he is, I think he wasn't. His first half was horrible. They did, like I said, they turned it around. The defense was solid in the second half. So first game, I can't really make too much judgment on Singleton, but yeah, they need Josie Jewell back, and they need him back quickly. The other nice thing too is Griffith is healing up from his injury. He's the next starter. He's gonna get better. He's missed some time. Obviously, that elbow dislocation to start the preseason has kind of stunted his continued growth. But I think he's another pretty solid linebacker. So I think they'll be okay if they can get those both those players healthy, fully healthy, and back into the swing of things. So, yeah, but that's what kills teams: injuries. You could have a great team, but if you have some key injuries throughout the year and you lose those players, it's hard to overcome that. So, but I like their safety depth. I mean, I really like their safety depth. So you got PJ Locke really played really well in camp and came around. I think their rookie Turner Yell has some promise. I would look for them to kind of sign someone to the practice squad. I thought maybe they would bring Jamar Johnson back to the practice squad, but I think they're just kind of done with him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do at the safety spot for the next 4 weeks. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's getting late. We had a longer conversation than I thought, which was good. But I'm going to jump into the Mile High Legend. But before I do that, not this weekend, but don't forget next the 49ers game meet and greet, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is keeps us going. We love bringing this information to you guys. So subscribe so you can get those alerts. Like the show, things like that. Tell your friends and family. I'm going to jump into some history. And that's what this show is about, is talking a little bit about history. So hopefully everyone can learn a few things that they didn't know before. So I'm going to start the Mile High Legend now. So Austin Goose Gonsolin is one of the original Broncos. He began his professional career in Denver's inaugural 1960 season, and he's immortalized in the Ring of Fame. But many people don't know that he almost became the first on-field fatality during an NFL game. And Goose had a terrific career in the Mile High City. He was, from his first season to his last, he was a ball hawk from the safety position. And as a rookie, he recorded the first interception for the AFL, and then went on to lead the AFL and NFL, for that matter, with 11 interceptions that year. And in his 7 years with the club, he averaged more than 6 interceptions per season. I mean, this was a ball hawking safety. And when he left to finish his career with the San Francisco 49ers, he had amassed 43 interceptions. And that was enough to be the all-time AFL leader in that statistic. And it wasn't surpassed for several years. It took 9 seasons for Dave Grayson to pass him. So 9 seasons to do what Goose did in 7. And Goose really was the best safety in those early years in that fledgling league. He was selected to the all-time AFL team, went to the AFL All-Star game 5 times, and garnered an All-Pro award in each of his first 5 seasons. And he wasn't just a ball hawk who didn't like to tackle. He was a hard-hitting safety. And he really set the standard for all those all-around safety play that we saw from many of the legends in Broncos country at that position. I mean, the safety has a storied history with this franchise. And Gonsolin set that all in motion from the beginning. And when he finally retired, he held the top 6 spot in the entire NFL history for career interceptions. And that prolific career was almost cut short. In 1963, he was making a tackle during a game against Houston's Billy Cannon. And Cannon's knee hit Goose in the head, and that blow was enough to not only render him unconscious, but to make him swallow his tongue and force his jaw to lock shut. I mean, the life-saving procedure of reaching in and pulling out his tongue from his throat couldn't be done because his jaw wouldn't budge. It was locked tight. So as Gonsolin was quickly running out of air and was on the brink of dying right there on the field, and time was running out so fast that trainers were seconds away from breaking his teeth so they could save his life. However, luckily, big defensive tackle Bud McFadden put his large mitts on Gooslin's jaw and was able to force his mouth open just enough so they could save his life in the nick of time. And Gonsolin would recover in the hospital and was back on the field the next week. And he would continue to play and become one of the greatest players in Broncos history. And that's your Mile High Legend. Thank you for joining, and have a great day, Broncos fans.